Hey, Jay.
Hey.
We have an interesting topic today.
We do.
We're going to talk about makeup. Sounds like... Please don't tune out. Wait,
exactly.
stay.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
It's not really that. It is, but it's not.
Here's the caption I put at the top of my notes. Okay?
Yes.
Is not wearing makeup brave?
Oh, yeah, right. That's how this whole started.
This is how it started. So, Pamela Anderson, somewhat recently, now we're recording this a couple weeks out, so it's like very much being talked about right now.
Yeah.
But I still think it'll probably still be being talked about, but
yeah, that always comes up somewhere.
Yeah. So Pamela Anderson has been going out publicly to places like Fashion Week.
Right.
Like not just like to the grocery store.
Right.
Where you know you're going to be photographed, where most of the celebrities have like professional hair and makeup for that moment. And she's not wearing any makeup.
Right.
And it's, I guess, I don't know if it's like a slow media time. That can't be right, but...
Well, or we don't want to talk about the real things.
It's like a good distraction. Yeah. But everyone like is talking about it. And even like in Googling about this, I actually decided to stop myself at like clicking on 100 articles about it.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't read all of them. I skimmed a lot of them. I wanted just to like get a feel for like what people were saying because there's a narrative that I'm hearing that's making me really
mad.
Yeah, like and more than mad, just like how is this still a thing?
Correct.
Like aren't we too far ahead for this? Like I think that all the time, we both do. Like how are we still dealing with this?
Right.
It's just this like weird form of misogyny that I feel like people aren't noticing, and it's making me irritable.
Well, is it brave to not wear makeup? Probably.
Should it be? Unfortunately,
right.
Yes.
That's the problem.
And that's what we want to talk about.
Right.
So we are going to talk a little bit about Pamela Anderson, but we're more going to talk about why is it that like half the population, their face, just how it is like perfectly acceptable and professional, and there's no one feels bad for what their face just looks like.
They get to just exist in their own body.
Yeah. And then the other half is an expectation that you would put makeup on. And that if you don't, it's not professional. Correct. It's brave.
Right.
It's sloppy. It's lazy. It's fill in your words here.
Right.
So I want to look at that. And then I also want to help us constructively apply some things to ourselves about it.
Okay.
Because if you want to wear makeup, you should wear makeup.
Absolutely.
And if you don't want to wear makeup, you shouldn't wear makeup.
Absolutely.
And if today you want to wear makeup and tomorrow you don't, or you wanted to this morning and this is what's going to happen to both you and I today. Yeah. We can already tell by how our day's going. By like noon, we're going to need to wash our faces because we can no longer tolerate the feeling of makeup on our skin. If that's it, that's cool. If you want to do so much makeup that you can see it from a mile away, if that makes you feel happy, then that's what you should do. Do you know how hard it is to feel good about yourself?
Exactly.
Whatever the hell will work
do it
that day, do it.
Yep, agreed.
I don't care if it's not the trend, if it's not like the right thing for your age or whatever bullshit thing is coming up, like just whatever feels okay. So all of that. But I want to look at like, where do you find out if you're putting makeup on your face for like kind of toxic-y, yucky reasons or like for yourself?
Right. There are like good rereasons and not so great reasons.
And the same with not wearing it.
Correct.
So I want to discuss all of that. But I thought I would start with just a little makeup history. Okay. Because I really think like, where did this all come from? So as someone who likes history, obviously, welcome to our podcast. So
Research.
Everything in research. Yeah. I was like, when did this start and for what reason? And how did we get from there to here culturally?
Right. And this is often important because I think we humans are oftentimes very short-sighted.
Yes.
So the things that we're doing now, we think have always been the way.
Yes.
And then when you actually start to look into something, you're like, oh, it hasn't been that. Like when you look into high heels or wigs.
Yes.
Those were worn by men.
Yes.
But we think like, oh, that's always something for women.
It's always something that women have been expected to do, and
Right.
this is the reason, and this is what it means, and this is what.
Yeah, I think the origin of something is important, and also like the progression of something is important.
I 100% agree. Now, I have a very brief few points.
Okay.
But what I have to say is that if this interests you, this is fascinating.
Is it?
Like if you go and you look, for example, I'm going to touch on it a little bit, but like the connection between certain like beauty trends and fashion trends and what's going on in the world, like socially, what's going on with people's health, like it's all connected and you can see the patterns.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it's the reason that I can't go through that is because it's different in every culture.
Right.
So, you know, I could do an episode on just like American beauty, like, and I think it would be great if you guys want stuff like that. Let us know. I think that's really interesting to know and to understand. But I wanted to give you just kind of a snapshot of some highlight points. So I just want to also say that like I am leaving things out.
Obviously.
Every once in a while, someone sends us a thing like, well, what about all of these 20 things? And I'm like, right.
Correct.
First of all, we would probably be friends, the people sending that, because my brain also deep dives everything. But just understand this is just for reference to talk about here. Okay. So if you were to guess who started makeup, what culture, and, you know, like what would throw me out one? Because it's probably right.
Like, I don't know. I'm picturing in my head like the ancient pyramids and like.
You're right.
Am I?
Yes.
Nice.
Egypt is where we
I'm picturing
can trace...
like mummies, almost like with like the eyeliner and stuff.
Yes, you think of Cleopatra with her makeup and all of that,
or even like the kings.
Yes. Yeah. So where we can trace it back to and where the exact origin of it are probably two different things.
Right.
But we know that Egyptians were good at keeping records of things.
Yes.
And we have found many hieroglyphics and different things. So in Egypt, we've found art as early as 4000 BCE.
Nice.
Okay. Now, the amount of articles you read, you'll see all different dates. This was the one I could back up the best. Okay. But let's just say really, really old ancient Egypt.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Way pre-pyramids.
Just
to reference.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's on both men and women, to your point. Okay. Now, both men and women wore makeup back then as a sign of wealth and to appeal to the gods.
Okay.
So one of my favorite examples was you would wear green eyeshadow in honor of Horus and Ray.
Okay. Fine.
So when you were getting ready in the morning and you were like, what color do I wear? You're like, what god or goddess am I trying to call in or appeal to?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I'm going to jump way far in culture, but we can also find it in the Bible. Okay, so remember, in Egypt, sign of wealth and like appealing to the gods. Like it's in honor of the gods and to connect to it.
Yep.
To them. Okay. Now, in the Bible, it's a bad thing.
Oh, of course.
Shocker. It's said to be vain and wicked.
Okay.
To wear it. And the person talked about a lot is the evil, quote fingers, Queen Jezebel. And I mention that because have you ever heard someone called a Jezebel for wearing too much makeup?
Yeah.
This is where it comes from.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Ancient Romans did not like makeup. Yeah. Interestingly enough, women did remove their body hair. People think that this is like very new to remove your body hair, but ancient Romans were doing it. Just in case.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Again, we don't have the right. Is that when we were doing it in America recently? Yes.
Right.
But sometimes we forget that like there's a world
outside.
It exists
outside of us. Exactly.
Okay. But makeup in ancient Rome was used by sex workers.
Okay.
So there's two very different classes of sex workers. And if you've ever read any of like Mama Gina's work, you know that there were like prostitutes and then there were courtesans.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So the courtesans made makeup cool.
Right.
But they were basically your high-end sex workers.
Yeah.
They were like your Julia Roberts going to the fancy guy's place.
Right.
And they were much more than just a sex worker.
Right.
They had the job of being like
a companion,
the beautiful woman on the arm of the king, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of happens now. They're just not labeled that.
Correct.
And they were not, I guess some people thought they were trash.
Mm-hmm.
But they set a lot of fashion trends and things like that. So you sort of see the mixing in these kinds of cultures where, oh, makeup is something that quote unquote whores wear.
Right.
Okay. So see, we're all over the place. It was very popular in the Byzantine Empire and then also in the Renaissance era.
Okay.
Okay. In between, no.
Okay.
Mid-19th century, Queen Victoria declared makeup to be vulgar.
Interesting.
So even when considered bad,
yeah,
quote fingers again, women were secretly wearing it in a way for it to look natural.
Okay.
I love stuff like that. I love reading a little thing where people were like, well, I'm still going to wear it.
Yeah, it's like,
I'll just sneakily
like prohibition. People aren't going to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And then it became popular again in Anglo-American world in like the 1920s.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to keep talking about this, but before we go any further, I'm going to say that there's a huge difference between what is expected of white women of privilege with makeup and women of color with makeup.
Yes.
There is a huge difference with what's expected of cisgender people with makeup and people who are not cisgender. Like, this is not an even playing field. So when I'm talking about it and we're giving our personal feelings and experience, I just want to recognize right here that it's not the same.
Right.
Not at all. Mm-hmm. There's still, to this day, a incredible misogyny and racism in beauty standards.
Obviously. I mean, absolutely.
So
it's like you can't deny that. I mean,
but just because you see more diversity doesn't mean we're still not forcing like the white, like the Greek
stereotype,
like exact perfect like all white beauty standards on everybody. It's still a huge problem.
Right. And unfortunately, beauty is now just another billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
That's used by capitalism to make a lot of money.
Yes.
And they'll do it at the expense of anyone that it needs to be done at, right? So, I mean, of course, there's going to be misogyny in that. There's definitely white supremacy about like what defines beauty in general. What is an attractive body type?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like all those
little
things.
Girl.
White. A little white girl,
like
small, thin, right? Yeah. Like it's all that's all baked into that.
Yes. And so I just think it's important to acknowledge, it feels obvious to you and I, but it still needs a statement. It still needs to be recognized. It still needs to be said. It still needs to be addressed. And we still need to be the kind of people at the front of trying to fix that.
Yeah. I mean, and there are definitely people who are breaking those barriers. I mean, there are, people across gender lines are wearing makeup. People are using different styles, different types of makeup. I mean, there is progress being made, but it's still like riddled with all that stuff.
Exactly. And, it's not even, like in some cultures, it's not even uncommon for cis white men or cis men to be wearing makeup. Like you have to remember that like we're looking at it through like a very tiny lens.
Exactly.
In America, for the most part, it is still, people still have a lot of trouble with seeing someone with makeup on who is not what they would consider born female or whatever version of it that people are going to call it. Like, that's weird that you have makeup on. And it's just kind of like, well, historically, it's not. Historically, everybody was wearing makeup.
Well, our country is like hyper gendered. I mean, we are hyper. I don't know. It always frustrates me that we say that we're a place of freedom,
right?
But there are such harsh, strict rules made for what you should look like, how you should behave, what you should put on your body.
Yeah.
It's like it actually doesn't feel that free.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. It feels like in some ways we've reverted backwards.
Right. Like there are very high expectations and they're very rigid.
Exactly. So just feel like it's important to
Agreed.
to always say.
Well, and that leads that leads right into the conversation of why it's brave to not wear makeup.
It doesn't make any sense. Like I really think you can see for women anyways. You don't have to be born a woman for me to include you in that category.
No,
anyone
who
presenting
identifies as a woman.
Exactly. For women, you see when something like Pamela Anderson, who, by the way, I don't care what you think of her, she's a babe.
Absolutely.
She's one of the most beautiful women I've ever put my eyeballs on. She's gorgeous.
Yeah, no, I think she was really empowered in her beauty. I think she was stuck in a time that, like, they did we sexualized her in the 90s.
Yeah.
But I think she worked really hard to take control of that.
Yes.
And to be in charge of herself and her body and her image.
Yes. And so we see her, this beautiful woman, not put makeup on. So just, here's my face, which is beautiful. And then we see like the headlines of what it says about her. And we all have this push-pull of like, yeah, we shouldn't have to wear makeup, but what if I want to wear makeup? And like, do you know what I mean? Like, you feel the messiness of that.
And I mean, a lot of what I saw on social media about it was other female celebrities applauding her.
Yes.
Like, because they thought it was so brave. And for them, especially if you're I'm assuming, I'm not a celebrity, but like, if
you're a minor celebrity, Jay.
I'm assuming that if you're like some big star.
Yeah.
And you're in that culture, that probably feels like a really, really bold move.
Well, because the braveness in it is that you are in a very vulnerable way putting yourself out there, and a lot of people are going to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, to me, it would be way easier to put makeup on and have that just not be the headlines everywhere.
Exactly.
Right? And instead, people are talking about it. People are like literally debating on TV shows whether she should or shouldn't wear makeup. And to me, that's the part where I'm like, what?
Right. Well, that's where we fail as sort of a society to elevate the conversation.
Yeah.
Because at that point, the conversation shouldn't be about Pamela Anderson anymore.
Right.
It should be about, why do we expect this of Pamela Anderson?
And
why does this feel so shocking?
Why do we think we should say whether or not someone should wear makeup?
Why is it any of our business?
Yeah, it's not. Like,
and why are we judging her character or her beauty or her worth?
Yeah,
based on if she's wearing makeup or not. Like, but the conversations are actually no longer about her.
Exactly.
Like, we should just be talking about our societal expectations.
Exactly, because it's really difficult to separate the sort of classism and you should be appealing to men.
Misogyny.
Yeah. Like, but you should not just like appeal to men, but like you should, whatever this guy near you thinks, you should, form yourself into that. Right? Like, oh, what if a man sees me without makeup on? Right. Like, it's really hard to separate all of that. I have to sexually appeal to people too.
Right.
From, well, I just want to, present myself in a certain way and be kind of creative and feel this is what I want to do today.
Just exist.
Yeah. And you can't separate them. They're not.
No, they're all intertwined.
Yeah. So it becomes this thing where you're sitting there like, well, I want to just clap for her and I want to do the same thing. And but then you're like, but it's not that easy because society hasn't caught up to this yet.
I want to clap for Pamela Anderson and then I want to boo America.
Yeah. We need that on a shirt. Can we get that, please? We, here at the IGG, we want to clap for Pamela Anderson and boo America.
Right. Or boo the patriarchy.
Yeah, boo the patriarchy.
Boo misogyny. Like, it's like, those things can, unfortunately, like, in our country, especially in the world of social media, you always say you hate that people think they have to choose sides.
Yes. It's so polarized.
That's the thing, like, that it's so polarized that now it's like you either gotta hate Pamela Anderson or you gotta love her.
Team makeup or team no makeup.
Right.
Or because you want to support her, it would be wrong for you to wear makeup.
Right. Exactly.
Or because you have makeup on, you have to insult Pamela. But what's really probably going on for you is that your own feelings of what it would feel like if you did that. And then people said those things about you are what's driving you, if you're not self-aware enough to be saying all these things.
Right, exactly.
It's about...
Or, sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
But if you're mad at her...
Yes.
And you see her not wearing makeup and you're pissed, it's probably has nothing to do with her. It's probably because you don't feel safe enough.
Exactly.
So that you don't have to wear makeup. Like there's probably a little bit of envy or a little bit of resentment that you're like, well,
more than a little bit
to do that, and I can't. I have to show up to work with my face on every day.
Or how come I got fired from my job for doing that?
Right.
But Pamela Anderson's getting celebrated.
Exactly.
Like it's too complicated. Is my whole point. You cannot separate it.
Right.
It's really hard, and at the same time, you think like look at like if a male celebrity stops dyeing his hair and goes gray. Everyone's like, oh,
so handsome.
Look at that. Good for him. Right? I think of like Patrick Dempsey. Everyone was like,
or like George Clooney.
Yeah. Oh my God, Silver Fox. Right? But if a woman's like, I'm done dyeing my hair, everyone's like,
she's let herself go.
But she's also brave.
Yeah.
And it's like, for aging.
Yeah. Just living. Again, just existing.
But also, you don't have to choose a team, to your point.
No.
You could just go, oh, for her. That looks beautiful on her. That's great that she decided to do that. And then dye your hair if you want. Or not. Like it's so weird that we personalize all of this.
Right.
And I think it speaks to what we've, I feel like keeps coming up in episodes, which is that like because someone's a celebrity, we sort of feel like they have this power or are making this like statement for all of us.
Right.
And where it's like, no. They're just on a film. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
it causes this weird, complicated thing.
I think also when we talk about people's reactions, and especially on social media, is that some of the ones that I was seeing were of men.
Yeah.
Who are then like, who cares? Why are we talking about makeup? Why are we? And I'm like, this is the problem. Because it's this thing that is so impactful.
Yeah.
It's like we're saying, it's so layered. It permeates into culture, into the expectations on women.
Yeah.
And then you have men who are like, this isn't even relevant to talk about.
Because they don't understand it. Right,
they don't realize, like, actually that they're playing a huge role in the expectations of women.
Right.
But are not even cognizant of it.
Right. Exactly. Right. They think like, oh, well, I mean, first of all, what if it's something that women sort of exclusively like, the female gender likes, then it's silly automatically in our culture, right? Whether it's dolls or the color pink or Barbie or whatever.
Right.
People get all squirmy about that kind of stuff. But if a man hears that, if you're a man and you're hearing that, the thing that you should do is go ask the women in your life why it's important to them.
Or like,
if you don't get it, go ask that question.
Right. Or like, instead of just dismissing it, be like, hey, do you feel like you have to wear makeup? Like, what's up with makeup? I didn't think it was a big deal.
Does Pamela Anderson not wearing makeup affect you? Can you explain it to me?
Right.
That would be the reaction.
It would be a great reaction.
Yeah. But the reaction actually is...
dismissing it.
Oh, that's just silly makeup stuff.
Right.
Where women are sitting there like, but I would get fired from my job if I didn't wear makeup. So, like, that's literally still in dress codes.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's, what?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like flight attendants and stuff.
Yes.
There was a whole big thing about that recently.
Yes.
I mean, like within the last year.
Yeah.
About flight attendants and wearing makeup. And,
yeah. And there's even some that aren't written in, right? Rules of well, she's going to get promoted. I mean, there's actual studies that women who wear a certain amount of makeup, it's specified how much, make like 20 times more than women who don't.
More likely to be promoted.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's why it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. I also just want to touch on it. Like I said this earlier, but like the tie to like what's going on culturally and like the looks. So just real quick, I have three examples. Okay. 1950s.
Yep.
The it girls were like Doris Day and Debbie Reynolds.
Yep.
And the look of like very sweet. And I'm going to use the word natural here. But I mean it in the way of like, it was obvious they were wearing makeup. But it's like light and girly and pink and like bringing out the color of your lips.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. And you think about the 1950s and what was going on culturally and the conservatism and the, like the swing in that direction.
Yep.
You sort of can see that in the look.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. The 60s, you think of Twiggy.
Yes.
Also, I'm very aware that I'm naming white women.
Yes.
But unfortunately,
that's what was in pop culture.
Exactly.
Because of white supremacy.
Twiggy in the 70s had a sort of an androgynous look.
Yes.
Okay, so that appealed more. She had almost like a, I don't really like saying this, but like what's considered a boyish frame. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I do.
Okay. Yeah. And sort of the look like of the short hair and like she could kind of go either way with the makeup and that became, and when you look at what was going on in the 70s, I mean, I'm sorry, in the 60s, that makes sense because it was like a lot of revolution about like sex. So it just makes sense.
That's a great point.
If you go to current day, so I was like, what is considered the trend right now? And it's all about looking, I'm going to put this in quote fingers, listeners, healthy.
Okay.
So you see this trend when you come out of like plagues.
Yes. Gotcha.
You can find it in history everywhere.
Gotcha.
That it's to look like
you're not dying.
Well, yeah, but in the weird Gwyneth Paltrow way is what's popular right now. This is why I'm putting quote fingers around healthy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like skinny, but like with a lot of color in your like pink cheeks and like. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like that weird. It's not a harsh makeup look right now that's super popular. It's definitely more in the natural category, but like that sort of look like you've gotten a good amount of sleep. You currently don't have the plague and things are looking up for you.
Right. Like there isn't an uptick in the COVID-19 virus.
Exactly. But the thing is like if people say like, oh, again, these things are silly or makeup's not something important to talk about. And it's like, well, look how important
it's like a reflection of the culture.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay. So I want to talk about how you feel about makeup and what that sort of means for you and like how you can sort of feel a little bit more peaceful around it. Maybe you can catch some shame stuff you've got going on around it and maybe how you judge other people for their makeup even though you might not want to.
Or you might not even realize that you are.
Yes, I want to get into that, but let's take a quick break first.
Okay, Heather. This week I'm obsessed with. And we discussed it briefly.
Yeah.
But again, like we said earlier in the episode, that this episode's going to be playing in a couple weeks.
Yes.
But this week that we are recording in,
we're
time traveling. It sounds like I'm describing time travel.
See our episode on time travel.
This week we had this like FEMA national like alert system thing happening.
Yeah. I shouldn't laugh at this, but I'm already giggling. Yeah.
We saw this whole like, it was this weird thing.
So weird.
So everyone's phones buzzed for like, they said it was going to be for a full minute. It was really like 10 seconds, maybe.
Right.
It was 2 minutes early. They said 2:20 p.m. It was 2:18. Right?
I mean, the 2 minutes early was the only part that bothered me about it. I'm sure we'll get to that. But
I mean, but you saw like, it was this weird thing, this weird trigger that showed like the conspiracy theorist and a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, hide your phones, like don't be within 200 yards of them. I mean,
people were turning them off and like putting them in the microwave.
I know, which actually wouldn't make sense. But anyways.
No, of course it wouldn't make sense.
But like, I mean, if you want to go to like to the extreme end, it was like the real hardcore QAnon MAGA people were saying that like, this is when, you know, and if you're interested in this, see our episode on Dr. No. Like, like this is when they thought that like, if you got the jab,
AKA you got vaccinated.
Vaccine, right? Like if you got the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, this is when it was going to activate in all of you.
You're going to turn to a zombie.
A literal zombie. Like people, like the real, like extreme end of this, they literally thought that that we were going to turn into zombies.
And as much as it is laughable, it's also really sad and scary for those people.
Oh, I know.
Like, it gives me a bellyache because I
Right.
also know that there are some people who are probably listening who are like, my parents did that.
Yeah.
Or like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they're trying to manage these people who have been
or even if you're listening and
brainwashed.
you're not fully comfortable in vaccines. Like,
Yeah.
we've talked about that a lot. We
Absolutely.
get that.
Totally.
The problem is what you and I discussed, is that this is how conspiracy theories start.
Yeah.
Is that there's always something a little bit off.
There's a little bit of truth in something, and then that's why it's like effective and it works.
Right. Like you and I were saying, like, I was saying that if the government wanted to test this system,
they didn't need to do this.
They didn't need to do this. They didn't need to tell all of us,
no.
You've gone to the moon. Like,
no.
Again, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you probably don't believe that.
The shadows are off, Jamie.
But, like, they have the capability and the capacity to make sure this system works without this. So there is something that's a little sus, right? Like, you're a little,
yeah.
you're like,
there's a weird energy
here.
to it. Even the way they were talking about it, I feel like I heard about it from social media. Like, right. I don't feel, maybe this is wrong, but I don't remember, like, the government telling us about it.
No, I heard about it literally on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And I heard about it because people were saying that if you're in a domestic violence situation.
Exactly. That's why I heard about it.
Hide your phone. Hide your burner phone. Like,
which is let me just say, that's the part of TikTok I love. Because to me, that's like the pagan, that's the pagan thing. Even if you don't understand what that means, or you don't understand what a real witch is, or what pagans
before.
Yeah. And all of that stuff. But like, the sharing of important information like that is the witchiest thing you could ever fucking do in your life.
And that's what I love about TikTok.
Me too. It's the passing on, even when someone's like, hey, this is a life hack to make your life easier. And you're like, oh my God, I just do that to the pan and the stuff comes up. That's witchcraft.
Yes.
That is what that is. So like, I love that. Sorry, I just geeked out about it for a second.
Yeah.
But that's how I heard about it too, in that very specific way. So how did that get known about? And then how did it start to come out in that way? Because historically, we don't really protect women in domestic violence situations
because
very
the people
well.
did it.
Yeah, but it's all weird.
It didn't come out on the news until literally like the week of.
Yeah, and why did it come out that way? There's so many questions I have. There is a weird energy to them doing it. Like, what were you actually also doing?
Correct.
I don't think you were activating me into a zombie.
Correct.
I don't think you're actually trying to download my brainwaves or whatever. I don't know.
Turn me into 5G and then we'll jump to 5D.
I think we made some jokes about that. Right. Yeah. But like there is something weird about it.
Right. And so that little nugget
explodes.
Is what is picked up upon.
Yeah.
And then some people just absolutely run away with it. But they're running like in the wrong direction. You're like, whoa, like come back here.
But that's that polarization again that we talk about, where instead of going like, wait, why does this feel a little off? Like, why did I hear about this way? Why are you doing it like this? Why did you do it 2 minutes early? Like, what were you actually doing?
Right.
You obviously did it 2 minutes early because you wanted less people to have turned their phones off.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But like, why? We don't ask that. Mm-hmm. We just turn to each other and start fighting about, oh, you were going to be turned into a zombie or you weren't.
Or that doesn't make sense.
You're stupid. You won't even realize. Now in a few months they'll say, the finish activating by something else. Like, and we'll just argue about that instead of going like, excuse me, guys, what are you
what's really
doing?
Happening here?
Yeah.
Right.
That's what makes me mad.
Right. But I think that's like, the pipeline that we always talk about.
Yeah.
It's like it's times like that.
Yeah.
Where people just get shot down that pipeline.
Yeah. People take advantage of people because intuitively you do feel a little.
Something's a little weird about this.
A little sus, as you put it. My kids would be so, like, they would be in a ball on the floor of embarrassment, me saying a little sus. But it is a little sus.
I mean, like Ben Affleck said in Good Will Hunting, you're suspect. That happened.
You've just quoted Ben Affleck. All right, Jay. Let's talk about how we feel about makeup. Like, you, the listener, I want you to sort of like ask yourself some questions about it for yourself and for other people. And even if you think this answer is simple.
It's not.
It's not. It's very complicated. If you want to get to the bottom, I'm sure this doesn't apply to many people, but maybe I think some of our listeners will appreciate this and be 0% surprised that I do this. If you want to really quickly get to the bottom of how somebody feels about their appearance and how comfortable they are in their skin, start asking them questions about how they feel about makeup and hair.
Yeah.
You'll get it in seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very complicated for, I think, any woman.
I agree. I mean, if you want to, like, let me figure out the root of your insecurities, this is the gateway that I use. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Jay, and I'll weigh in with my own after. How do you feel about makeup? Like, I bet you have rules for yourself about it. You have, like, we all do. But, like, just give me a general idea of how Jamie Hayhurst feels about makeup.
For myself or for anybody?
Just for yourself at first. Because they're different, I bet.
They are.
Yeah.
Red
flag.
I'll tell you. Yeah. For everybody, do whatever you want. I don't care.
Same.
I literally don't care. And I love, like, a woman who's wearing makeup and, like, knows all about it and is, like, knows about how to contour and, like, the science of, like, lines, and that's, like, appeals to the photographer in me. Like, I love that.
It's like, it's a form of artistry, right?
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Personally, for myself, I don't actually give much of a shit about makeup. But I do feel like for certain occasions, I wear makeup. And it almost is a gauge for how important I think something is, but actually not the event itself. It's how important I feel it is about me being perceived.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
So, like, if I'm here hanging out with you, I'm not wearing makeup.
Right.
I mean, I'm probably gonna put my eyebrows on. My kids hate when I say that.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, the 90s, like, eyebrows. Yeah. I just make sure those, like, I would feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Without that attended to.
Yeah.
But beyond that, no. But it, like, here, where I know, like, we're being recorded.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear makeup.
Yeah.
If I'm going into work.
Yeah.
I wear makeup. And then at some point it hits a different level where, like, I love it. So if I'm in a wedding, like when I got married, when I was a bridesmaid, like if I had the opportunity to have someone do my hair and makeup, love.
Yes.
Love.
It's like a really cool level of pampering.
Yeah. And, like, I just feel like the eyelashes.
Yeah.
I just, like, it can be a real confidence boost.
Yes. What I love about how you just talked about it was that you did the thing that I think we all do and feel, is that you weaved in between, I need to feel this, or, like, here it is about where it's important. And, like, you showed that you have created over time kind of a set of rules of when you wear makeup that don't necessarily only come from because I desire to.
Correct.
Right? And that's what we all do. This is not exclusive to you.
No.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
no.
And that's where you want to take stock. Like, that's where you've got, like, that's where the splitting of the hairs is. Is it easier in life to have rules so that you don't have to sit in your desire and be like, do I desire to wear makeup and to brush my hair or whatever? Like, way easier. Am I saying that's what you need to do, like, every day? Just, like, sit in your feelings for 10 minutes and decide what your makeup's going to look like? I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that the rules should be built around and have room for your desire.
Like, what was going to make you feel good?
Yes.
Yes.
And I think where we all need to look is, where do I feel bad about myself if I'm not wearing it?
Yes.
Like, if I was late and showed up at work and didn't have my makeup on, would that affect my ability to work for the day?
Yes.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's where we have to look.
I find that I'll sort of run a check. Like, when I'm leaving the house, I'll be like, is this outfit all right? Do I need to do my makeup?
Yeah.
And most of the time, say I'm going, like, to pick my kids up.
Right.
Or if I'm going to Trader Joe's or something.
Yes.
I will clock
Yeah.
that I should put makeup on.
Yes.
And nine times out of 10, I'm like, no, I don't
No,
care.
thank you. Yeah.
But that's because that's what I don't care. There are some people who would feel better. They would just feel more presentable.
Yeah.
They would feel like happier.
Yeah.
And if that is the real true voice, awesome.
Well, what you're describing is having your ego do its job.
Right.
Which is to prompt you to run the check.
Right.
Like, is this the safest?
Right.
I mean, I know that's not the word that's at the front of your mind. You're not realizing that you're checking for your own safety.
Right.
You are.
You are.
Your emotional safety, mostly.
Correct.
You're running a scan about what you're wearing and your makeup and your hair. It happens in a second, right? And there's a voice that your ego will present to you that will tell you that whatever you're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
Even if it's a full face of makeup, right? It doesn't matter.
Right.
That is your ego's job. But unfortunately, we live in a society that also like amplifies this voice, and we don't understand that voice isn't a truth teller.
No.
That it's just our fear doing its job. Right. And we sort of internalize, or we like take a meaning from that, and then we feel bad about ourselves with whatever choice we make. But what you're describing is I was going to call it an override, but it's not. It's just like then pulling in desire, which we forget to do. Right. Which is your intuition and going, no, wait, would that make me feel good to do that, or would it not? Right. And if it's would it not, you go, okay, no, who cares? You know, if it's yes, that would make me feel better actually if I just went and quickly took my sweatpants off and threw jeans on or something. Right. Then do that. Like, oh, if I just went and like threw some mascara on. Yeah. Or actually, I want to have the best makeup when I walk around Trader Joe's that anyone in the place has. They're all going to die about it. Then do it. Right. If you're doing it because that's what desire wants. If it's only fear, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying that's where the red flag is, that there's something shame-based going on for you when it comes to this process.
I knew a woman when I was in middle school who was in her second marriage, and her husband had never seen her without makeup on. Yeah, that's like some 1950s shit right there.
I remember being like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
And I was like, well, don't you sleep in the same bed?
She slept with makeup on, I bet.
And then she'd get up and redo it. She'd intentionally wake up before him. Yeah. And do her makeup before he woke up. And I remember being like, never.
The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, if you've ever seen that,
yes,
she does
I love that show.
Yeah. That is a thing that people still do. I know people who are not that much older than us, who it is very rare for their significant others to not see them like dolled up.
I think I somehow coded that experience as not wearing makeup as being like an act of rebellion, which I liked.
Ooh, yeah.
I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, if I marry someone, they're going to get all of this.
This is what you're signing up for, buddy. If you don't like my face without makeup on, then move along. Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's complicated because this is going to be another episode of like how does autism show up today? Here it is. Here she is. Okay?
Yes.
All right. I started dating my husband when I was quite young.
Yes.
Okay. I was 16.
High school sweetheart.
Yeah. Okay. You can gag about it. It's
lovely.
No, I'm just saying it doesn't bother me at all. Go ahead. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So anyways, I had been dating him for a little while, and we had the thing that we mostly did on dates when we were 16 was go out to dinner. What else are you going to do when you're 16, right? So we had been doing that, and then I was at a friend's group, like a group sleepover, which I don't think happens anymore. But back in our day, there would be like 12 girls in a room, and you'd all not sleep.
Right.
As a sleepover.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And they were talking, and a bunch of the girls were like, "Oh, we don't eat in front of our boyfriends, or we don't eat in front of boys at all." What? And I had this moment where I felt like all the blood rush out of my body because
you've been breaking code and
I was like, I did not know about this rule. Not only do I eat all the time in front of him, but I eat like a truck driver in front of him. I'm sort of like,
Good.
I'm thinking like, oh, let me impress you. Watch me clear this plate in under 5 minutes.
Oh, God.
I'm not clocking. I literally am not clocking it. Like I didn't get it. And it really, I remember going and asking my mother about it and her being like, no, you eat in front. No, like her going like, that's not okay. And like explaining it to me and then going like, okay, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But it was in my head for a little while.
Yeah.
And then like, I remember one girl saying like she only would order a salad if she went out to dinner with her husband. And
God.
I'm thinking like, well, I want like the biggest cheeseburger you have. Like 100%. It's so weird.
Right.
And we're old, but we're not that old.
No, we're not that old.
But this still goes on. Yeah. Like I see this all the time, and I see this idea of like, I remember somebody, I won't say who, a little bit younger than us, going on a date with someone, and they were like, I don't know what to do because the date is for like a hike. I would normally wear makeup on a hike, but I'm going on a date, so should I wear makeup? And just thinking like, I wouldn't have been like, I should wear makeup.
Yeah, no.
Like that's
the expectations are so serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild. So anyways, for me, the way that I feel about makeup comes from one of my favorite shows that I just heard is coming back. What Not to Wear.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Carmen D, the makeup artist.
Yep.
Okay. She said you should have a 5-minute face routine, and you should be able to do it in less than 3 minutes.
Oh, I love
an efficient like rule. And she showed what it was. I was probably in middle school. Yeah. Not wearing makeup yet. Mm-hmm. And I was like, for life, Carmen D, I got you. Carmen D, I still do it. Sometimes I switch up the color a little bit, but basically it's the same one. It's quick. If I'm going somewhere to an event, I might switch it up a little bit, but I'll probably just get bored and just do the regular one. Right. It's a routine. It's what I have. Yeah. I can do it very quickly. Boom. So I don't know if Carmen D was right, but I've been doing what she said
for you
for my whole entire
it certainly worked
makeup
for you.
Wearing career.
Yeah, career.
But then it's just like, I don't have to think about it. Like for me, the hard thing about opting into doing your makeup or your hair is that there's a lot of choices involved.
Yes.
And I get decision fatigue.
Same.
So I'm like, I don't want to.
Right.
If I can just do this and I feel good with that on, that's good for me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But that's rooted in more of like a healthier energy.
Yeah. No, listen. Have I gone through parts of my life and do I still have days where I put makeup on for like maybe a reason that's not the best?
Of course.
Of course.
Right.
Yes. But I think I've tried to get to the point where like I'm thinking about how I'm expressing myself. Mm-hmm. Like we all know that I'm a huge geek and dork for communication of any kind. I mean, I think a lot of intuitive people just are, because we realize that everyone's communicating all the time without talking.
Always.
Yeah. Right. And how you look is the first communication to everybody about you. Yes. And humans judge you immediately for that. No matter whether that's right or wrong, that's how we're designed.
Yep.
So
that's a good point.
There's an element to it for me that I find interesting of like, what do I want everyone to see? Like what am I communicating with how I look? It's used to be more rooted in like, will people like me? Do I look, will they think I'm pretty? Am I hitting the trend well enough? Like I remember that. But now it's more like we had parent teacher conferences yesterday. Right. So like the makeup and the hair and the outfit was like, I want to look kind and nice, like someone you want to talk to, but also someone you would question messing with their kid.
Interesting.
Okay. So like, but I'm also looking around and I'm noticing that there are a lot of other parents there who are in like stained sweatpants and I'm thinking like, that's interesting because I don't think you thought about what that parent's going to judge you about and then apply to your kid.
It's so interesting because first of all, you and I are always saying that like people only see things through the filter of their own stuff.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes. Through their own like neurodiversities, their own clairs, all this stuff. Like we're always running, but the filters are our own. Did
I just like expose my clairvoyance a lot?
Well, but so I would have dressed up for parent teacher conferences just like you do. Yeah. Definitely makeup. My hair looks nice. I'm dressed up more. I'm dressed up more than I normally would for like your average day. But it's not about communicating the type of parent that I am.
Mm-hmm.
I do that because I feel like if I'm dressing up, I'm showing up because I'm showing that I respect this process.
Ah, interesting.
So
I'm thinking like I'm going to need to get the best thing for my kid, right? I'm going to need to manipulate the system to get what I want for my kid. So I need the way that I look to be like one of the weapons in that, in my arsenal to get what I need.
Perfect sense.
Right? So my brain is in like, so I need you, teacher, to look at me and to see this.
Right.
Right? And so I'm carefully constructing. I mean, I don't spend a lot of time getting dressed. I'm saying carefully constructing, but...
Well, you're always dressed nicely, though.
Well,
it's like
think about it. Yeah. Like 10, 15 minutes getting dressed, doing my hair and makeup. If I have to wash it and dry it, oh, God, it's another 15.
Well, yeah.
But whatever, I haven't figured a way around that yet. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just thoughtful of, like, what... Like, if I'm working, if I'm on the podcast, like, what's the vibe?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if I wore a business suit to record,
that's so weird.
That would be weird. You'd be like, why are you wearing a business suit to talk to your friend about intuition?
Right.
But even like I think about when I go to the doctor, I now do full makeup, hair, and wear a blazer every time because I saw someone really smart on TikTok being like, if you're a woman, you need to do this. They'll treat you different. Dress like you're a high up corporate officer. And it works.
Yeah.
It does. I hate that it's true, but it is. So like there's whatever you're doing it to manipulate an outcome.
Right.
And so the more you just like you're saying, like you are like, look, I respect this system. Because if people see you as respecting the system, you feel like you're going to get a better result out of that.
Right. It's like I'm showing up here, I'm putting my energy here into this meeting. I expect you to put your energy into the meeting also.
Exactly. So that's what we're all doing all the time, but we make it something else, and we make it like, oh, I'm judging you because you don't have makeup on. Or like, that's not like, do you know what I mean? Like we're taking it to this very patriarchal place.
Right. Because if someone shows up to a meeting with me that I deem as important and they're not dressed up or they don't have makeup on, I mean, I'm probably going to respect that a little bit, but also I might feel subconsciously that they're not taking it seriously.
Right. It's like,
because that's my own perception.
Yes. Because I think both of us feel like if I want you to know that you're important to me and that this is an important thing to me. Right. So I'm going to look like it is important to me.
Right.
You know? And so sometimes when people show up with like stained sweatpants and no makeup and their hair's a mess, it's like, you don't value this. You didn't bother spending a couple minutes. It doesn't take very long to look presentable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not because I now think you're lesser.
Right.
It's because you've given me a message about how you feel about this interaction.
And maybe not even knowing you've given that message.
Yes.
It's been received.
But I also clock, like if you came over to my house, we were just hanging out at my house, and you like dressed way up and put a ton of makeup on and did your hair, I would be like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Why are you not comfortable coming here that you have to put on all that makeup?
Right,
like,
exactly.
So my point is like, it's always giving a message.
Yeah.
Can I just side note say, don't say to anybody, you look tired. Because every time I don't have makeup on, that's what everybody says to me. And I'm like, it's just my face. It's just the fact that there's nothing right here hiding the fact that the skin underneath my eyes is a little darker than the other skin because I'm a 40-year-old woman.
Well, and look at the world we're living in.
I am tired, but I don't want you to tell me I look tired, Susan. I just didn't put makeup on. And you know what? The thing that really bothers me about it is that I was probably not sitting in that space of thinking about how I looked. And by giving me that comment, you just put me there. Do you know what I mean?
In what world is that helpful?
It's none.
Like, and I get like if you want to extrapolate, oh, you look tired. Are you the better question is, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
Everything all right? Like, are you sleeping enough?
Yeah.
Like,
What's going on? People will tell you if we're talking about stuff and I want to share with you that I'm tired, then I will. But if I don't want to share that with you, then I won't. In fact, the fact that you asked me if I'm tired, I'm going to pretend I am so awake. Like, I'm going to rebel. I'd be like, nope, I've never slept better. I've never had more energy. In fact, I'm going to go take a lap around the house 2 times because I'm so energized. Like, that's going to be what happens in my body. Talk about rebellion, right? Don't do that. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Compliment somebody.
Well, that's why women feel like they have to wear makeup, because
Yes.
they feel like they have to put on that armor.
Yeah.
They put that layer on
Yeah.
to protect from all this like judgment
Yes.
and this
and
observation.
That is why it bothers me when people call women brave for not wearing makeup.
Right.
That what you just said.
Right.
Is because what you're actually saying is, hey, people are going to see imperfections in your face.
Right.
And they're going to judge it. And so the fact that you're not wearing it is so brave. And it's like you're addressing the wrong problem.
Exactly.
The problem is that because I don't have makeup on, you're making judgments and making comments to me.
Exactly.
But really what's probably happening is that you should come up to me and say, what is your skincare routine? Because your skin looks amazing.
Right.
Even if you think it looks horrid.
Right.
Go say that to someone. That's going to make their day better.
Yep.
I've never met a person who, when they were tired and someone said, you look tired, were like, thank you for seeing me.
Yeah.
I feel so
Exactly.
seen. Like, that's not,
right.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. I got to talk about how you judge other people for not wearing makeup. You touched upon this, for wearing it, for not wearing it. The thing that I like to say about, like, someone doesn't have any on and they show up. If you show up with no makeup on, but you also have clearly put on clothes you didn't sleep in last night, and brushed your hair, for me, the judgment of you not wearing makeup is gone.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be that you have makeup on, right? Like, if you have put yourself together somewhat, you don't need to be in a ball gown. I don't care what brand of clothing you're wearing. In fact, if you got a good deal on it, I'll probably like it better. That's how I feel. Yeah. But like, I'm not judging you because of that. But as humans, we are judging each other based on how do you feel, what level of significance and importance do you put on this? Yeah. And we're reading that in what you're wearing and your makeup and your hair. Yep. And then how do you feel really? Now sit with this for a minute. Not how do you want to feel, but how do you feel if you see someone who's transgender wearing makeup? Okay. How do you feel if you see someone who looks very masculine with blush on? Like, how does that actually read to you? Honestly. Right. And it's okay if it's uncomfortable. I mean, I love a fuck you moment. So like anytime someone has the courage and the confidence to do that, like if I see someone who's male presenting and they're wearing makeup, I'm like, yes, high fucking five. Yes. But what I'm saying is it's okay. You don't have to shame yourself if there's a feeling of discomfort in it. It just means, like you said before, there's something in you about yourself that's coming up. So as long as you don't treat that person poorly or any differently because of your feeling, there's nothing wrong with that feeling. Sit with it. You live in a culture that's taught you to be uncomfortable with that. Well, I mean, and think about like everything that we've just been discussing in this episode is about programming. Yes. It's about like what we've been conditioned and programmed to think about like beauty standards and gender standards. So it's probably going to feel a little uncomfortable at first to see those standards being bent and broken. Yes. Right? But understand that if you start to then feel mad at the person, angry, anything like that, that's a you problem. And that's where the self-awareness is important. Yes, that's where the work is. That's where the work is. Yes. It's not on them and teaching them about what gender roles are and what men are supposed to look like and women are supposed to look like. That is not the work. The work is, why do I feel so uncomfortable with this person expressing who they are? Yeah. Am I allowed to express who I am? Yes. And why haven't I given myself that permission, and how can I? Like, that's where you want to go with it. Because what you're really doing in that moment when you're dealing with that programming is going like, what's safe for me and what isn't. Right. Right. So like that is important. Like a lot of people shut themselves down and shame themselves when they have those thoughts. But like if you literally were just like had a moment of self-awareness where you're like, huh. I've had moments, plenty of them, where somebody just existing would trigger me. Yeah. And I'd be like, oh, and then be like, oh, wait a minute. Whoa. Like, that's going to happen. It does happen. And if you're saying that you're never triggered by
someone else and their appearance, you're lying.
You're such a liar. You're such a liar.
But that's okay, because that means that you don't want to be judgmental. I get that. But like, if you're being very honest with yourself, we are all triggered because we all have this program running.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right, I want to ask another question.
Mm-hmm.
How do I want to phrase this to everybody? If you feel like it's safer for you to wear makeup,
mm-hmm.
or if you feel like it's safer for you not to wear makeup, just look at where you are in the spectrum of that. Okay. If you are the person whose husband has never seen them without makeup on, you want to ask yourself some questions about why it's so unsafe for someone to see you as you are.
Yep.
Okay. And then you want to do some further questioning. Where does this come from? You know, is this being taught to me? Did I create this role? Was there a moment of unsafety?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things weaved in, so many comments somebody makes offhand that we internalize forever.
You know?
Yeah. Also, there are other people who completely opt out of makeup, which that's fine. But you need to also ask yourself the same questions.
Correct.
Because a lot of people, I know someone, I'm thinking of someone in particular that I know really well who completely opts out of makeup. Not because they don't want to wear makeup, but because they don't want to be seen trying to wear makeup and not doing it right.
Okay.
So it's like that you want to make sure you're asking yourself questions no matter where you fall.
Right.
Right? Like,
I agree.
Because, listen, there's nothing wrong with opting out of wearing makeup, and there's nothing wrong with always wanting to wear makeup.
Yep.
But, like, what are the reasons behind it? Because does the person always wearing makeup want to just, like, not sometimes?
Just take a break.
And are they allowing themselves?
Right.
Is the person who doesn't wear makeup and has opted out because they don't feel safe trying and maybe, like, not hitting something perfect? Then why? Because you're not letting yourself do something maybe you want to.
Right.
Like, it's just a place to ask questions.
Yeah.
Point being, there's no answer for what's the right thing. And there's no answer for what's the right thing forever.
Right.
I have days, and I really do think this is cyclical with women. I've seen, like, the amount of estrogen you have and, like, the spikes in your hormones, you feel better about your body and worse. Like, they've literally proven that.
Yeah, it's the different menstrual phases.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm someone who doesn't have a uterus any longer, but like neither of us do. Yeah. But you still cycle,
right?
So there will be those like days where, for me, it's usually like 3 or 4 days where I'm like, when did I gain 127 pounds?
Yeah, you see yourself differently.
Yes, and then a few days will go by, and I'll be like, I should never wear makeup. Look how great my skin is, and I just swing all over the place, right? I mean, I don't actually think that, but I think like, Right. Look at looking good with your natural skin. Let's go to Target. Like, when the scan happens, I'm like, who gives a shit? Right. But a few days ago, I'm like, we better throw some mascara on this bitch because she's looking rough. Like, and it doesn't really have anything to do with how I feel as much as it's like other things affecting you. The point is, that's going to happen. Yeah. Like, you're going to feel all the different ways, and whatever works and makes you feel the best in that moment on that day is the thing that you should do.
Agreed.
If you work for someone who says you have to wear a certain kind of makeup.
No, you don't. You just quit.
Yes. And yes.
If you can.
Perfect. If that's an option. But, like, fight against it.
Yes.
That should not be a rule. I understand that you need to look presentable for work. But whether or not you put paint on your face.
I know.
Makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
No, it really doesn't. And then the last thing that we have to end with is something you and I say all the time to people, constantly. And it's women, or anyone who identifies as a woman, you are no longer allowed to apologize for your appearance to anybody for any reason.
That or crying.
You can cry, but you can't apologize for crying.
That's what I mean.
Or for having a feeling.
Correct.
Or for taking up space.
Right.
There's a lot of
rules.
But hear me out. I see this a lot on TikTok where someone will start a video and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry for the way that I look. And I'm thinking, like,
oh, yes.
You look fine.
Yeah, and just teach me something. Tell me the story. What? I don't care.
I'm not staying for that video. I'm moving because I'm like,
I literally saw a TikTok that was like, if you start your video saying that, I'm scrolling.
I didn't make it, but I feel that way. I do. I'm like, bye. Because not because I dislike you, but because I'm like, you just put me in that place.
Now,
like,
right now, I got to hold your emotions.
What do you have to say? Is it a recipe? Like, what are you talking about? Anyway, but that's what you'll be doing. You'll be telling me a recipe and you're apologizing because you're not in full glam.
Right. Yes.
Excuse me?
That's how much pressure there
Yes.
is for women to feel like they
Yes.
can't even just share information or tell a story
Yes.
without being perfectly
Yes.
poised, perfectly made up,
Yes.
dressed,
yes,
everything.
I mean, somebody recently that I know well, I saw them out running errands and they're like, oh my God, don't look at me. And I'm thinking, first of all, you look wonderful.
Have you ever seen a man start a video or a conversation?
No, that was
like
the
that?
next thing I was going to say. Never. I have never had a man apologize to me because he had sweatpants on.
Never.
Or because his hair was unkempt. Or because he threw a baseball cap on. I have never even seen a man have a moment of feeling worried about that. Ever.
And maybe they're feeling that way, but it's not so much pressure that they feel like they have to address it. Like, like women feel so pressured by that they feel like they have to beat you to the punch.
It's
like,
not.
I'm gonna address this face, hair, whatever before you do,
and I'm going to apologize to you for just appearing. Now, this is how I look, and I'm so sorry. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. This is the face that I was born with.
Sorry for existing.
I'm sorry that the pigment in my skin is darker under my eyeballs, and oh my God, I'm so
like
sorry
the
that
age spots that happen.
Sometimes, like my skin gets really pink.
Sometimes I'm a human who's 44 years old. Oops.
Sometimes my face is a little puffy. Like I'm not like. The thing is that like being the person receiving the apology is baffling, and we all do it. And the thing is, we're saying you're not allowed to do it anymore, not because we're mad at you for doing it, but because as women, we all need to step in and support each other and say like, we're not apologizing for things like that anymore.
I don't want you to feel that pressure.
No, especially around me, because if you just look like you're doing life, I relate to you a lot more than if you look like you're like perfectly pulling everything off. I can't relate to you like that. I'm not mad at you about it, but like I'm not going like that's someone who I get.
Who I can connect with.
But if I see you at Target and you have got like a dryer sheet stuck to your ass and your hair is a mess and there's like kids around you, I'm like, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want me to go get you a coffee?
Exactly.
Like it's just a different thing.
Yeah.
You're allowed to exist as you are. And you don't need to feel bad about it. And if you're walking around judging people because they didn't put concealer on or foundation or whatever, then like you need to check in with yourself.
It's because you're judging yourself that harshly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
So is Pamela Anderson brave for not wearing makeup? Unfortunately, yes.
Yes. Should that be an act of bravery?
No.
No.
Should that be the conversation we're having? Also, no.
No.
Because not only is she... Like, I feel torn in this way. Like, one, she's I don't know how old she is, but I know she's older than 50. I think she's like 56.
Yeah, she's somewhere
in there. Okay. So she's a woman who, like, for Hollywood standards, is geriatric.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's in that industry. And she's not wearing makeup. It's not like she's like, like a 20-year-old being like, no, I'm not wearing makeup.
Right.
Like, also cool, but like, it's different.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love that. I love that she's like, screw all of you. I'm doing what I want. And really, her response to everything is like, I just wanted to. I also read that her makeup artist died that she had worked with for like her whole career. And she just never wanted to hire a new one. And she really didn't do much makeup for herself.
That's interesting.
So that's part of it for her too.
Interesting.
Yeah. So she was just like, it's just what I want. I'm not trying to make a statement. I just don't want to.
Living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. But then there's also like, she's also a very beautiful, very wealthy woman who can afford to have work done. She is like,
yeah.
And like, she's being judged like this. Right. So like the rest of us are just looking around like,
we don't have stand a chance.
Well, if Pamela frickin' Anderson is getting slammed for not wearing makeup, well, how are people going to treat me?
Yeah, what about the rest of us?
Yeah. I don't want to stand next to her with a full face of makeup while she has none and be photographed.
Right. That's the irony.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So, yeah. So I just think it's important to keep talking about it. And let's shift the conversation a little bit.
Yeah.
We answered the question. It is brave, but we hate that it's brave.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. We need coffee. Let's wash our makeup off and go have some coffee.